everybody? Welcome to the latest episode. Was it great or were you 8? And this is one that we didn't think we'd do this early on in the show, but it kind of is something that we talked about, and somebody else had talked about it, right, Dennis? In one of our in our first episode of The Sandlot.
Yes. So on the Sandlot one, this is one, like we said, we are kind of saving because we didn't want too many layups in the beginning. I feel like we've had a lot of simple ones. Little Giants might be the only curveball. Curious on a poll on that one, but we've had a couple layup ones here now. So we didn't want to go that easy right out of the gate. But it's actually funny because when we did the Sandlot, before we hit record and started making the video, we had a discussion about it where I had said to you, it's funny whenever I think about The Sandlot, I think about Stand By Me. They're both very similar. I feel like I watched them around the same time. And we kind of had a discussion like, oh, yeah, I guess Sandlot did steal a lot. So just wanted to reference a comment from Paul Bell, 1973. He had actually said he doesn't love The Sandlot because it's a ripoff of Stand By Me. So while we do still love The Sandlot and still think it's a great film, I think there's a lot of people who do. We do want to just recognize your comment and let you know we did have that discussion off camera, and we do see, I mean, even rewatching it for this video, The Sandlot takes a lot from Stand By Me.
Yeah, it definitely. I wouldn't say it's a ripoff, but even the narrator does sound very similar. It's funny. I mean, this one's Richard Dreyfuss, which is funny. Like, that's one of the most, that's your boy from Jaws.
Yeah.
But he does sound very similar as far as the narration, when the narration cuts in throughout the movie. And yet, like he said, the vomit scene, obviously this movie has a very famous one as well. The dog not being as scary as they make it out to be, but there's a lot of differences as well. I think this is a little bit more of an emotional film.
Yeah, I agree. I think that The Sandlot is more kind of family friendly, fun, just kids having fun in the summer. This one's definitely a lot heavier. I mean, you have a lot. First of all, the whole plot is that they're going to find a dead body, so that's way more serious than playing baseball.
Kid's dead body too. It's not even like an old man who died. Like, this is a child.
Yeah, like that's insane. And you have all the kind of like gang violence that goes on, and these kids are smoking and all that stuff. Like, it's definitely a more, I don't know, like a more gritty feel to Stand By Me. Even though it's still a coming of age story, it's still an adventure with friends and everything like that. It's definitely grittier than The Sandlot for sure.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is based on the Stephen King novel or novella, The Body, which makes sense for the name. But of course, that means it's going to have all the Stephen King tropes in it. The greasers. Like, this is something that I think even Family Guy has made fun of. Like, there's just so many things that happen in Stephen King movies. You're going to have, no matter when they take place, you'll have greasers. They'll take place maybe in Castle Rock. That's where this movie does take place, in Castle Rock, Oregon. Made up place. Directed by Rob Reiner, who he's directed other Stephen King movies as well. He's directed this Spiral, Rob Reiner, but he's great and as the director. But this movie, it's just, even though if you can say that The Sandlot took a lot from that one, really is a kids movie. If you're watching this at 8, I feel like you might have actually missed out on what a lot of this movie's about.
Yeah, this is one actually. I feel like we got a question recently about movies that you appreciate more as adults than you did as a kid. And I think, to your point, this might be one of them, because you don't realize when you're 8 kind of the stuff that they're going through. And, you remember like the vomit scene, you remember, like the leeches and, running from the dog, and you remember that kind of stuff. But you don't really appreciate like the stuff that the junkyard guy screams at Corey Feldman, about him and his psycho dad and all that. And you don't really like understand what that all means and the trauma this kid has been through. And, there's a lot of other stuff you don't really get. Even the ending, I mean, is horrifically sad.
It's insane. Like, that's the reason why the whole story is being written right now, is because of what happened to his friend. And we just saw how close they were. And it makes you realize, like, yes, like, in the Sandlot, it's much more a happy ending. Like, everything went great for these guys. They stayed best friends. Like, these guys, they were friends, but he has a tragic ending, Chris, compared to like what the ending is for, like, he's not playing in the majors. No, he did have a successful life he never thought he'd have, but it still meets a very tragic and what could happen to all of us kind of ending. Like, it could just end that fast.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the exploration here in the in the movie. The kids are kind of just hanging out, doing their thing, whatever it is, and then they find out about, oh, this kid, his body, he went missing, and people say he got hit by a train, but they're looking for the body, and no one can find it, and they view it as an adventure, and obviously a lot happens along that adventure, but I think in the end they kind of have that like epiphany or awakening when they actually see his body. Then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute,
The kid was dead.
This isn't a joke. Like, this isn't, haha, we're going to find some dead kid. Like, this is one of us. Like, this easily along this trip could have been any of us, and like almost foreshadowed what would happen down the line. Like, they all would kind of go their separate ways, and maybe meet untimely demises and things like that. And it is one of those, like, coming of age. Like I said, you start off such an innocent child, just thinking it's fun to hang out with your friends, and then you realize, oh my god, this could all end in an instant.
Yeah, depending on what you do. Yeah, it's fun to be a kid. There's a lot of innocence wrapped up in being a kid. They're smoking cigarettes in the junkyard. That's cool for them. And that is cool. Like that moment really stuck out to me. Like when you're a kid, like doing that, hanging out, doing something you're not supposed to do. That's fun as a kid. But like when you look at it as an adult, it's like you don't even realize like what you're doing to yourself. But it's fine almost at that moment, because then when you grow up, you have to start thinking about all the repercussions of your actions.
Yeah, and it's like that freedom, and how, like, they can do all this stuff. When you're a kid and you get, you're smoking with your buddies around the fire, it is what it is. When you get leeches on you, you're like, oh, gross, it's a leech, whatever. When you get older, you're like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna get lung cancer. What kind of diseases did this leech? Like, and you start thinking about all that stuff and having to worry about it. When you're a kid, you don't care about that. You're just like, let's have a great time. You don't get. They don't think twice about crossing that train bridge.
No, they just do it no problem. I mean, they foreshadow that heavy, like in the movie with that, like earlier in the movie about the dodging the train. He tries to do it, and they pull him away, and then we get the big train dodge where they all have to do it, which is one of the best scenes in the movie. But I always forget how early in the movie that is. I always, in my mind, it's always like close to the third act, but it's like at the beginning of the second.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty early on into their adventure, right? Like, they're just, the beginning of this is really just the setup to start the adventure. All right, tell your parents we're sleeping at this house. You're gonna sleep here. I'm gonna sleep there. Whatever it is, get your stuff together, and then they start the journey. I do love the thing where Vern is like, oh, I brought a comb, and they're like, a comb, you idiot.
I know that's just big contributing to them. They didn't even think about food, which is the typical kid thing to do, and they just start, trying to gather their money up. I love that Jerry O'Connell is in this movie, like the young Jerry O'Connell, who he's in one of my most cringeworthy scenes of all time from Scream 2 when he starts singing to freaking what's her name. I hate that scene.
I love you. Isn't that what life is made of? I know it worries me to say.
I hate it.
Yeah.
When I see his face now, it still bothers me, even though he's great in this movie. But digging for pennies, like underneath his porch because his mom threw out the map, is hysterical.
Yeah, dude, that's so funny. And can we talk about the fact that when they're trying to scramble and get their money to buy food, they come up with like what, 13 cents or something, and they're able to get a loaf of bread, bologna, like a bunch of sodas. They get like half the market for like 13 cents.
It's crazy. I think the total was like $2.37 that they had or whatever. And then they had to but yeah, they had enough food for 2 days. They sleep and everything. They have plenty of food. It's not really a worry.
Yeah, that's insane that they scrounge up what's essentially $2, and they're able to get enough to make sandwiches and stuff and drinks for two. Are you kidding me? If you go to the supermarket today with $2, you're barely gonna get a pack of bubble gum.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think you can anymore. So, yeah, they got very, very lucky back then that they were able to do this. And it's the 50s also, so their parents, 1959, their parents aren't really too concerned. They just believe them what they say. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like Gordy's, we really see his parents like throughout the movie, so we can see and that's one thing as an adult you appreciate more, is like with the pain that they're feeling.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's something again that it's lost on you when you're a kid. Because when you're a kid, you're just thinking about like how awesome it would be to be able to go out camping with your buddies for 3 days. However long they're gone for a while, and none of the parents really are overly concerned about it because they just believe that they're at so and so's house and it is what it is. And but you don't realize that, like, the parent part of it is like, what if the kid's missing? Like, this kid just died. There's all that extra concern, and that's something, like you said, you appreciate more rewatching as an adult.
Yeah, you're just seeing like like all of them. Like, we only see Gordy's parents, but you hear about the other kids' parents throughout, and you can clearly tell that like Chris has problems at home, obviously, but so does Vern. Like, he's got some problems. But Gordy, he's just lost his brother, and like his mom is not even like talking, and his dad's like, almost like being resentful towards him. And then when you're a kid, you're like, why is his dad being such a dick? But you could tell now as an adult, like, it's 1959. The dad just has no idea how to deal with his emotions.
Yeah, I think that's something too that is crazy to think about, right? Like, because it wasn't really a thing for like men to process emotions until like 2010. Like it was very much that era of like you suppress everything because you got to be the man of the house. So that's exactly what this is. And to look, and it is that, I mean, to be fair, it is that old cliche, like one son is the superstar athlete and going to carry on the family name and make everyone proud. Or the other one is the nerdy kid who, likes to read comic books and, is not a man. And, of course, the one who's got all the promise in the world is the one who dies young. And now they're looking at their nerdy son like, well, what the hell are you going to do? Even though he's smart, he could become a doctor, he could become a lawyer. I mean, he could make a lot more money than, his brother who might have like a 5-year football career.
Well, it's that like my brother was the local hero. Like that's what he was, the local sports hero. But who knows what he would have been as an adult. Like exactly, like Gordy's a writer, and like it takes his best friend to recognize like you're a great writer. And they all know, like obviously they want him to like tell them a story. Like they all clearly know it, but his own parents don't. And even in the town when they're in the store, like, oh, you play baseball or was it football like your brother? And he's like, no, and like it's almost like disappointment, like, oh, really? Like your brother was great, and it's like, I could be great too. It's just you don't care about what I'm great at.
Yeah, like he could, obviously he wants to be a writer. I say lawyer, doctor, whatever, because he's brainy. He's smart.
Yeah,
He knows what he's doing. So like even if writing is a hobby, he's smart enough to go on and do all these other things that are great. Obviously his goal is writing, and I think that's what drives this, right? Is like it pushes the story along because you have that in the back of your mind that like he's the storyteller and this is, a really interesting story that's being told to us. So you kind of have that juxtaposition between those two things going on the whole time. That's really interesting to follow, but every kid's, got an interesting, he is one who has a clear goal in mind. He wants to be a writer. He loves to write. Then you have Chris, who basically has accepted the fact that he's going to amount to nothing because of who his family is. He kind of doesn't, and I think a couple times in the movie too, if I'm not mistaken, he does actually kind of mention that. He doesn't say outright, like, I'm going to be nothing, but he basically is like, I am nothing. My family's nothing. And that's all I'll ever be, sort of thing. And then I can never remember his name, but Corey Feldman, he obviously, has his goals, but he wants to join the military and everything, but that's because his dad and, he's got his own demons he's dealing with. So the kids all have kind of their own background, which is they're all very different.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and Corey Feldman, he's Teddy. They're all very different kids in this movie, and all great actors play them too, which is pretty funny. You get them. It's hard to get a great list of kid actors who would actually all, for the most part, be. I guess Corey Feldman's not really known as an adult, and River Phoenix sadly died at a young age, and Jerry O'Connell went up to be something. I mean, Will Wheaton, who plays Gordy, he's obviously something as well. In the Star Trek world, I don't really see him in too many things, but for the most part, everybody in this movie is like a pretty good actor. Even Kiefer Sutherland is like the douchebag. He plays that douchebag so perfectly as well. And it's just crazy though, like, that's your brother and that your buddy pulls out a knife on him. Like, what kind of pussy are you?
Yeah, that's insane dynamic and makes no sense. But I mean, it lends itself to kind of Chris's point of like, this is my family. We're dirtbags and we're never going to be anything. Because there's not even loyalty amongst us.
No, you don't stick up for your own brother. It's like you throw a line out like, that's my kid brother. That's it. Like if that was my buddy, I'd be like, yo, we're not friends anymore. That's my fucking brother. You pull a
Yeah.
knife on him.
Yeah, it's crazy, and even in the end, like when they do find the body and they're fighting over who's going to get their reward money and everything, like he has to pull a gun on them.
I know it takes that. Like that's a courageous moment. That's like pulling the gun on him, like him standing up for himself. But I do want to say, just before we go any further, that the acting of River Phoenix and Will Wheaton is a lot better. They have two of the best scenes in the movie where they're child actors. They have to cry, both of them, and you believe it. Like you don't feel like it's like, oh, let's just get the tears in your eyes. We'll rub them a little bit and we'll make this work. No, they both do great emotional scenes explaining about their home life and like where they see themselves and what they'll be. I love both of those scenes.
Yeah, the I think it's the night scene, right, where they're sitting around the fire. The other two are sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is it River Phoenix who takes the first watch, and then Will Wheaton comes over and sits with them, and they talk there in the middle of the night. Like that's such an emotional scene with the fire going in the background and everything. Like it's so, and like you said, the acting is incredible. Like for child actors, there are grown adult actors who would not be able to pull that scene off with as much emotion as they did.
Nope. I mean, there's actors like I forget who it was. Oh, it was Steve McQueen. He got offered a role in a big time movie, and he's like, I love the script. I want to do it. He's like, I can't cry. He's like, it's a problem for me. You'd have to cover, and I think you need somebody who could actually cry on cue. And like, said that's just not for me. But to have kid actors be able to do that, it really is something that like I think elevates this movie a little bit above like we talked about the originally in the beginning of this video about how in the Sandlot the acting maybe not the greatest. This movie you can't say that the acting's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think that shows, with their careers, right? I mean, you just mentioned all their names and they've all gone on to do other things. And, whether it be Will Wheaton doing I think it was Star Trek, like you said, he was in Big Bang a bunch too, the Big Bang
Yeah,
Theory.
he played himself, right? In that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he went on, and obviously the saddest one is River Phoenix passing away because he died super young, right?
Yeah, this movie's 1986. He died in 92. He only dies 6 years later.
Yeah, so he was extremely young. Corey Feldman, obviously known for a lot. I mean, I know him from Friday 13th, but he's known for a lot of other things as well. All the kids, honestly, all of them went on to have really great careers, except, of course, River for the tragedy. But that I think stands alone. Like Sandlot, how many of those guys are only known for their characters in Sandlot?
I mean, the Savannah Bananas just brought out like the great Hambino, like that's what he's known for. Unfortunately, he'll always. I mean, all those guys, they're lucky to have a claim for fame for that. Like it's great, but yeah, none of them. Even the director, when you look him up, like the director of that movie who also narrates it, like he didn't really do much else, and it makes me think like. Did he get away with ripping off the Sandlot? Maybe like that's right, like because he wasn't as successful in anything else. It's almost like this movie popped because it took a lot from it.
I think you're right. And I mean, you look at even some of the other people. I mean, like you mentioned Kiefer Sutherland. He's arguably a background, secondary character. He's really not that crucial in he has a couple scenes, but it's the kids who carry it. But even in that, he has had a stellar career in his life and been in 100 different things that everyone knows for. He's been in TV shows and movies. And so it's almost like everyone involved in this movie what really went on to have great careers. This wasn't one of those like kids movies with kids actors that was just great in the moment. No one amounted to anything else after that. It was flash in the pan. This was a phenomenal movie. The children actors were fantastic. The secondary characters were fantastic. The director knew what he was doing. The story was written really well because everyone involved in it went on to have really great careers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even the director, Rob Reiner, I think this is after this is Spinal Tap, but he went on to have a hugely successful career, directing so many classic films. Even with directed out a Stephen King film like Misery, which I'm sure people would argue might be better than Stand By Me. I don't think so. I think Stand By Me is actually a classic film. I'll be honest, after I watched it, because it just kind of hit me so emotionally, because it really is the perfect coming of age film. Just remembering that time of being a kid and hanging out with your buddies and then being forced to like grow up and lose touch with people. Like this is a more realistic take on it where you lose touch and then they go on to have harder lives. I think they said like Teddy was in jail, which kind of adds up to like you don't want to believe that would happen, but like he had this trouble with his father having mental illnesses, and it makes you think like maybe that did get passed down. That makes logical sense. Gordy did become a writer. Chris, became a successful lawyer, but meets this tragic ending. Like it all makes sense because that's just what happens to us as we become adults.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what makes it stand apart from Sandlot. And I think it's almost sad, but I feel like most people, especially movie fans and everyone, we watch movies and you want to be emotionally invested in it, right? And it's hard to be emotionally invested in the good guy and the positive and all that because sadly, life is pretty difficult most of the time. So, you see the Sandlot and it's like, yeah, that's great. It's a happy ending. The kid got to be a Dodger and the other kid got to be the play-by-play for his best friend who is a Dodger and, all that kind of stuff. But like, that's not real. Real life to most of us is having friends who have drug problems, who have mental health issues, who get arrested, who never leave the small town they grew up in, who you haven't seen in 15 years, you haven't seen since the last day of high school. Like, unfortunately, that for most people is real life. And that's what this movie is. It's capturing that glorious, those 2 days or 3 days they have camping, that's the peak of their life. That is freedom to just be a kid, do whatever you want, have a great time and be with your buddies. And then the realization of damn, those were the glory days. Now we're adults. We don't talk. This one died. That one's arrested. This one, although he's successful, I haven't seen him in 15 years and that whole thing. So I think that's why it resonates with people, because this is, as sad as it is, because it's the darker movie, this is 1,000% more relatable than Sandlot is.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some of the Stephen King tropes in there, but I 100% agree. It's just a lot more relatable, a lot more realistic. I mean, the emotional moments got me. Like, I didn't want to like end this. Like, we watched it for this podcast. I hadn't watched it in years. Like, for this video, I hadn't watched it, and I rewatched it, and I was like, I'm not ready to like move past this movie. I want to watch it again. Like, it's that good.
Yeah, it resonates with you, and there's a lot of scenes, there's some funny scenes, when they're telling the story about the pie eating contest.
Oh my god, I actually have to look away. I think we talked about it. I don't remember if it was on this one, The Sandlot. I vomit, grosses me out. So that really, I see that scene coming. I'm like, I don't like that scene.
Yeah, but like hilarious story. So there's some lighthearted moments. There's that, and then when they come up from swimming in the lake, and they all have ticks, and everyone's like picking them off, and then he's got one in his pants, and they're like, what do I do?
I'd faint too. I'd be very, I don't blame him for what happened, especially he pulls like some blood on his hand. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. So there's moments like that in it, then of course there's the dog in the junkyard. They're hanging out, doing their thing, and then the dog comes out of nowhere, and you're like, oh crap, so there's some funny moments.
And the junkyard dog's just like a German Shepherd too. Not a German Shepherd, a Golden Retriever.
Yeah, and so it's lighthearted even in the most serious moments, but then it does get dark, and I think it balances that, so you're not watching it depressed start to finish. I mean, even with the train thing, I mean, they're walking across the bridge, and Vern drops his comb, and he's like, oh, my comb.
Like, it's important to him. He needs that. Like, for no reason. And a comb is such a thing of the 1950s too, which I love that that's in there.
Yeah. Like,
we didn't even mention it yet, like into this video, but like John Cusack plays the older brother in the flashbacks, and he's great.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that too. And he, again, great in that too. Cause it's funny, like, and that's another trope of these movies, but the older brother, who's the hero of the town, everyone loves him. He's athlete, going to be the next big thing, whatever. He's always the one who actually cares about the younger brother, who's nerdy and into writing and into whatever it is. Because even in the flashbacks, he is like, just keep writing, just keep doing your thing. You're going to be great. You're going to be great. So like, he does play the role really well. And that lends itself again to, I think when you're an adult, you kind of look at that and you're like, wow, this was his only support to go through with what he wanted, because his parents don't care.
They don't care at all. Like, he had to bring it up, John Cusack, to the family, like, oh, like, Gordy wrote this amazing thing. Did you guys read it? And they didn't read it. And like, he's like, I read it. It was great, man.
Yeah, which is sad. It's sad that that's something that they have to deal with. And again, I think I keep saying it, but you don't really recognize that as a kid. As a kid, you might be like, oh yeah, my older sibling, my this, whatever, but you don't realize what Gordy's going through in those moments until you're an adult, and you're like, wow, like, I know what that's like to have a goal and like no one supported, or only one person supported. And this kid wanted to be a writer so bad. The only person in the family who believed in him was his brother, who is now gone.
Yep, he died. Like, luckily, that's why it was so meaningful for Chris to like pull him aside and tell him, like, you're going to be a great writer, man. Like, don't worry about it. Like, and because he's like, he feels it. He knows that his parents don't like him. And now his brother's gone. Like, he's like almost got to go into this unloving home and like try and push through and become a successful person. Like, you wouldn't be surprised if he fell apart, but it's almost like that conversation with Chris like pushed him over. Like, okay, I can do this. I just got to stay focused.
Yeah, and the one thing too that's interesting about this, and it's definitely a comment on the acting, is you never really feel like they're kids. Like, even though they are supposed to be younger children, you don't feel like they're super mature. I mean, Chris, some of the conversations he has are so deep and so thoughtful and meaningful. He's talking like he's 50 and experienced an entire life already. Like, they're so intelligent and so mature in the thing. Vern obviously and Teddy have moments of being children because they're kind of the most emotionally immature. Gordy and Chris are definitely the most mature of the group. But when they speak together, you're not looking at it like, I'm watching kids talk, because their dialogue together hits on a whole nother level.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it doesn't feel like it's them reading lines. Like it feels like yeah, they feel older because you almost can understand because of their home lives. Like him especially, Chris, like his home life sounds terrible with his father. So he's had to probably mature and be an adult at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, he's had to worry about, between that and his brother, who we've talked about before, just doesn't care about him, literally lets his friend pull knives on him, chases him down, like literally makes his best friend draw a gun on him to get him away from there because they're trying to kill each other. Like, not a very healthy home life there for sure. And they just, it really is so sad that River Phoenix did pass away young, because I think he had such range and was so good as a kid. Imagine where he'd be now. And I mean, you see his family is obviously incredible as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's always something I've always thought about because River Phoenix died in '92. Um, would Joaquin Phoenix himself be as success as he is if it wasn't for his brother actually passing away? It's almost like he might have like filled his shoes. Joaquin was acting like in the '80s and early '90s as well, but it's just that River Phoenix like felt like he was one of those special actors. Then he was in Indiana Jones. Like he could act.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is definitely one of the best performances. I think for him for sure. I think everyone played their role great. And again, we keep talking about it, but the story is just. I think it definitely is one of those ones. If you're a kid, you watch it and you enjoy the kid stuff, and you don't really bother with the adult stuff because it's like, it's just in here. But when you're an adult, you look back fondly, like with your nostalgia glasses on, at the kid stuff, and you have an appreciation for the adult stuff. So it's ironic that this is something that you see when you're 8, because I don't think you fully appreciate and understand what the movie's about until you're older and have actually been an adult on your own and experienced life like that.
Yeah, this is one I think will easily fall into the it's just a great film category. Like if you liked this when you were 8, you honestly didn't even get the full picture of the film itself until you were older. So like you just said, you probably didn't even appreciate it enough. Like I truly like this is honestly to me, I had it in my letterbox. I opened it up. I was like, this is a 5-star film. This is a 10 out of 10. It's that good of a movie.
I agree. I think this is one that, maybe I don't go back to all the time, but when I do and like just rewatched it for this video, I'm like, you know what? This might be in my top 5 all time. Like this is one that I should watch more. Like it really genuinely is that good. There's never a moment where you're like, okay, are we almost at the end here? You really appreciate every step of the way, every journey, every part of this journey the kids are on, you have an appreciation for.
Yep, 100%. So this is definitely one where we'll just say this one was a great film. So we don't know yet what we're going to be doing on the next show. We might put a poll out. We might not. We'll let you guys know as always. We'll put a poll out to let you guys know. Let us know what you guys think. Was this a great film or was it 8? Feel like it'll be a little bit of a layup, but we'll have to wait and see. We kind of said that with The Sandlot, and people disagreed. So
Yeah, we've been a little surprised by these. I think this one, I'm pretty confident this one will be. I'm curious about moving forward. As we said, like we'll try to dive into some more maybe divisive ones. Ones that maybe genuinely weren't that good. Some of these we've picked, they're considered classics for a reason.
exactly. So Stand By Me. I mean, that one's like a classic film just to be a classic film. That
Yeah.
some of them are going to be like, ugh, is this really that good? We'll get there. We'll get there. But
Yeah.
this is one that I just had a good time talking about, and I know you did too. And this is just a great film. Just check out Stand By Me if you guys haven't seen it yet. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll be seeing you guys around.